Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So Rivals of Ixalan here, Temur Energy, knocked down a peg or two along with Ramunap bread. We got a brand new standard format to explore, and I am super excited because we are kicking things off this week with probably my favorite tribe from Ixalan, a tribe that really didn't have a chance to break out in our last standard because of energy and Ramunap bread. And we're talking about pirates, and not only are we playing pirates, but we're starting with an ultra budget red black pirate list. $54 in the paper world, 20 ticks on Magic Online. So if the normal $100 budget is a little too much with you, I want to get out an ultra budget list right away so people would have something super cheap to take to the next F&M, take to their next event. And I think this deck, even for just $54, is actually really powerful and surprisingly competitive. I thought it was going to be okay, and I came away thinking, wow, this deck is actually really strong and does a lot of really cool things. So a quick reminder before we break down Red Black Pirates for Rivals of Ixalan post-ban standard. If you enjoy this deck and you enjoy Budget Magic in general, it would be spectacular of you if you could take a second, click that subscribe button. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk pirates, and before we get to the individual cards, this is kind of a curve out deck. So when we go through the cards, we're just going to be working our way up the curve from our 1-drops up to our 4-drops, because that's what this deck is really trying to do. We are an aggressive deck. We're looking to curve out from 1 to 4, hopefully have multiple 1-drops, beat our opponent down if we need to. We got some reach to close out the game once the board gets gummed up. So let's jump into it, starting with our 1-drops, and first off, Buccaneer, probably the most important pirate edition for Rivals of Ixalan. One of the things the deck was missing was a really good 1-drop for turn 1. They had some somewhat okay stuff, but just a 2 for 1, which Buccaneer should always be in our deck because we got a million pirates to reveal to it, is a really strong card. So this gets us a Goblin Guide, essentially, lacking the haste, but still 2 power, 2 toughness to start beating down on turn 1. The other thing that Buccaneer does is it makes Rigging Runner significantly better. So Rigging Runner is not a great 1-drop on turn 1, because it's only a 1/1. However, it is an absurdly good 1-drop on turn 2 if you play another 1-drop on turn 1, because then you attack, you raid, you get a 2/2 first strike for 1 mana, which is a really strong 1-drop. So what our deck is looking to do is play that Daring Buccaneer on turn 1, and then maybe on turn 2 we can raid in a Rigging Runner, even 2 Rigging Runners or a Daring Buccaneer, and just end turn 2 with 6 power and a bunch of bodies on the battlefield to keep beating down. Grasping Scoundrel is kind of our bad 1-drop. It's still fine. It attacks for 2 damage. It's kind of like a bad version of Savannah Lions, but it kind of rounds out our 1-drop slot and helps maximize the potential of getting that devastating triple 1-drop start. Just like in Modern, when you play against Burn and they go Goblin Guide Monastery, so Spear on turn 2, and you're like, oh my god, I can't win. We have the ability to do that with our pirate deck with our 9 1-drops. So in the 2-drop slot, we have a weird range of creatures. So Carry Zev's our aggro 2-drop, gives us essentially a 3 power 2-drop if you count the Ragavan damage, split up over 2 bodies. It's hard to block itself because of First Strike and Menace, so just gets in a bunch of damage on the 2-drop slot. Kitesail Freebooter is kind of our tricky disruptive 2-drop, comes down, essentially duresses our opponent while it stays on the battlefield. And one of the great parts of Kitesail Freebooter in our deck is our deck pressures and wins quickly enough that we don't really need a true Thoughtseize that gets rid of the card forever. We're more than happy having a flying body that triggers raid like Kitesail Freebooter and getting rid of a Settle the Wreckage or a Fumigate just for a couple of turns to get that one more turn, one more big attack to close out the game. And then Dire Fleet Poisoner is just insanely good. We would be playing 4 of them, went down to 3 because I want to keep the deck as cheap as possible in that $50 ultra budget range, but it is so good on offense and defense. On defense, we can just ambush Viper it in after our opponent attacks with a Dinosaur, Bristling Hydra, and just eat a big creature for 2 mana. So it's kind of like a weird, somewhat risky because it dies to Fatal Push and Lightning Strike, but a removal spell on a body essentially. On the other hand, it's also good offensively because we can attack with Rigging Runner. Our opponent blocks it, thinking they're in good shape. Then we flash in our Dire Fleet Poisoner, give the Rigging Runner +1/+1, and death Death Touch, wipe out whatever's blocking it, or just force through additional points of damage. So on offense, on defense, Direfleet Poisoner, just a key part of our deck. In the 3-drop slot, Ruin Raider is our card advantage engine. Our deck is super cheap. We only have a couple of 4-drops. You've seen all these 1-drops, all these 2-drops. So Ruin Raider is just like a really strong Dark Confidant in our deck. Comes down, draws us a card immediately on our end step, so even if our opponent kills it with sorcery speed removal, we're still getting that card, and we're able to just keep getting more action. We're finding burn spells, we're finding more pirates, pressuring our opponent, having something in hand left over in case our opponent does manage to get down a Wrath. Super important at its job. And then Forerunner of the Coalition is one of my favorite cards in the deck. We have 3 in the deck. After playing with this deck a bit, I think maybe we actually want 4. I just came away amazingly impressed with Forerunner of the Coalition. So one thing Forerunner of the Coalition does is let us play a couple of spicy 1 of 4 of. So Direfleet Neckbreaker is a card that I don't really think is great. However, there are situations where it is absolutely insane. When we are in the right matchup and our opponent doesn't have targeted removal, and we can go 1-drop, 2-drop, Forerunner of the Coalition, tutor up Direfleet for turn 4, play Direfleet Neckbreaker, that is a massive chunk, potentially a game-ending chunk of damage, giving all of our attacking pirates +2/+0. On the other hand, if it's a grindy matchup and Direfleet Neckbreaker isn't looking so good, we can always tutor up Rowdy Crew, which is just a potentially big body with trample, but it gives us some card advantage. We draw 3, we discard 2 cards at random. Yes, sometimes we discard cards we don't want to discard, but we are still ending up with an extra card in our hand, and maybe a 5/5 if we get a little bit lucky with the discard. The other sweet thing about Forerunner of the Coalition is it gives us reach. So it doesn't actually seem all that obvious at first, but we get in a bunch of damage in the early game. Then what happens sometimes is the board kind of gets gummed up, the game slows down, our opponent has a bunch of blockers, we can't really attack as easily. So once we get to that situation, we can Forerunner the Coalition to tutor up Forerunner the Coalition. Forerunner enters, drains for 1, and then the second Forerunner comes down, drains our opponent for 2, 1 from each Forerunner, tutors up another Forerunner, then the third one drains for 3, so that's 6 direct damages from our Forerunner chain. Then if we play a 1-drop pirate, it's hitting for 3 damage. It's lava spiking our opponent's face just for entering the battlefield. We don't even have to attack with it. So it gives us this sneaky reach to close out the game. So while draining for 1 probably doesn't seem like a big deal, in a long grindy game after we get in a bunch of early damage, it's really important, actually really helpful. Rounding out the deck, our utility spells, Shock, Lightning Strike, removal spells also go face to get rid of those last life points. A Braid, kind of just a hedge for God Pharaoh's Gift. Heart of Kirin, can't go face, but still a really strong removal spell. Mana base wise, bunch of black-red dual lands, a bunch of basic lands. In the sideboard, we get a couple more tutor target pirates. Deadeye Tracker, pirate we can tutor up against God Pharaoh's Gift, against Torrential Gearhulk, any graveyard-based decks. Very good in those matchups. Captivating Crew is really fun to tutor up against like dinosaurs, where our opponent doesn't have much removal, but they have big creatures, and we can just steal our opponent's Gultas and huge dinosaurs and smash them in the face with it. So another great tutor target for our Forerunner of the Coalition. Then we have a bunch of ways to attack our opponent's hand and deck. Lost Legacy to get rid of like Approach of the Second Sun, Duress for control, Doomfall, Double Duty, removal, and a Thoughtseize, Hour of Glory to deal with Scarab Gods, Hazarets, Vanta's Blasting Cannons to kind of go long in controlling matchups, and March of the Drowned also for those like wrath-heavy, removal-heavy matchups, where when we draw 2 of our good pirates from the graveyard for 1 mana, actually a pretty good deal in a control matchup. So that is ultra budget red-black pirates for Rivals of Ixalan Standard, and that's our budget Magic deck for this week. And I'm not going to say too much more. I'm going to let you see how it works because I think this deck is actually surprisingly good. I'm super happy with how it turned out. I was surprised with how powerful and how good it is. So let's get to the gameplay video so you can see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, take a second and click that like button down below. It's a great way to help support the channel for free. And you can find the next video in the playlist right here.